Alright, in this video, we are going to learn the color range command inside Photoshop. It is actually an advanced way of selecting things inside Photoshop. Let's get started. Alright guys, welcome back. If you have been following the channel, you know this is the fifth in a series of videos that will help you understand selection tools inside Photoshop. And in our last episode, we talked about the Magic Wand tool. And I said, if you have the Magic Wand tool selected, you can always go to the options bar and adjust the different settings such as the tolerance value. By default, it has a tolerance value of 32. So I'm going to choose 32. And with this tolerance value, if I were to click on this image to select it, this is the portion Photoshop is able to select right now. So I'm going to press Ctrl D. And let us say I take the tolerance value up to 80 and click again. Of course, you can hold the shift key to click here to add these other portions. And since we wanted to select these guys and not the background, you can go to select and then choose inverse, or you can press Ctrl Shift I or Command Shift I if you're using the Mac. Now that we have the guys selected, we can go here on the layers panel and click on this button to add a mask. Of course, you see that there is still some work that needs to be done. We can paint these details back and so on. So that was just a quick refresher of what we did the other day. So I'm going to go to File and choose Revert. Now to choose the color range command, you go to Select and choose Color Range. With the color range command open up, you have this dialog box with different settings which I'm going to explain. So here at the top, if you click on this pull down menu, you can be able to select an image based on different colors here. So notice that this guy's trouser is almost green. So if I were to come here and choose green, the green color here is highlighted, which means that color is selected. If I were to choose maybe the red, you can see that there is some red in this guy's pullover, this one and this one. By default, you will have sample colors checked. But if you select the highlight, you are going to select the brightest pixels of this particular image. And if we choose shadows, we are going to select everything that is black. And if you go here and choose midtones, you are going to select everything that is in between the lightest and the darkest pixels. So I'm going to go to this pull down menu and choose sample colors. And with sample colors, you notice that we have detect faces gray out. So if I were to go here again and choose skin tone, we now have detect faces. And currently if you look on the preview window here, you can see the current selection that we made with the changes we have done before. So if I were to click on detect faces, Photoshop tries to adjust and detect all these faces of these guys in the image and adjust the selection accordingly. So I'm not going to use that for this demonstration, but I just needed to show you to make sure you understand what it does. Now I'm going to uncheck that and then go back to sample colors. Now, just like the Magic Wand tool we explained a moment ago, we talked about the tolerance value. The higher the tolerance value, the more selection Photoshop will be able to make. And the lesser the tolerance value, the less selection Photoshop will be able to make. So the same thing can be achieved here by adjusting the fuzziness value. So notice that while in this dialog box, we have the mouse pointer on the screen. But the moment I move outside the dialog box into the image, we get the eyedropper. This means you can click to sample colors, and that is how the color range tool works. So if I were to click beside this guy's head right here, you will see that portion highlighted here. This means this white portion is currently being selected, and with the default fuzziness value of 40, we get this expansion right here. If I take the fuzziness value up even further, you can see how the selection gets expanded. And if I take it down, the selection gets contracted. So I'm going to highlight this value and take it to 40, which is the default value. And the next thing I need to explain right now is localized color clusters. Notice that we have the range value here currently gray out. Unless you check localized color clusters, you will not have this value available. So let us turn that on. And now you can see the range can go from 0 up to 100%. Now notice that when we click beside this guy's head, we sample that particular color. Now if I don't want this selection to expand to these other portions, I can reduce the range by simply dragging on this slider, and we get like this spotlight effect there, which means only that portion within that range will be gradually selected. And of course, there will be instances where you will find this very useful. Just know it is there. So I'm going to turn that off. And now let us say my intention is to actually select these guys from the background. What I can do is to start by reducing the fuzziness value, just like so. And what I can do is to establish my first point. I'll click again here, and something which is very tricky is that if you click here to lay the first point, and maybe you come and click somewhere around here, guys, you see, you get rid of your first selection and establish the new one. So what you are going to do is to click here, and if you need to add to this existing selection, you hold the shift key. Notice that if I hold the shift key, I get a plus sign next to my eyedropper tool. and I can either click on it like so to add to the selection, or I can even click and drag just like so. Notice that as I click and drag around, all the other portions get added to the selection. If you look here on the preview window, you can see that we have some missing details here. So I'm just going to drag this dialog box somewhere around here, hold the shift key and just add that selection like so. And if you need to remove details, you can hold the Alt key. If you hold the Alt key, you will now have a minus sign next to the eyedropper tool, which means you can paint to remove some details, just like so. Now, since our intention is to select these guys from this background, we actually started by selecting the background because it is fairly uniform. So what we can now do is to come to this check mark right here and click on it to invert that selection. Now everything that is white is what we are currently selecting, in this case the guys, and everything that is black represents the background. Also note these two options here, we have selection and image. If you want to have this image displayed on this preview window, you can click on the word image. And then if you want to have that black and white selection here on the canvas, you can click on selection preview and choose grayscale. There we go. Now I'm going to select here and choose none and set the mode to selection. Now with everything set, I'm just going to click OK. And the color range command is able to create that selection just like so. Now the next thing I would like to do is to add a mask to it so that I can be able to reveal the missing details. So I'm going to go here on the layers panel and click on this button to add a mask. And you see the color range command did a great job of actually handling these details right here. And if you also pan down to this portion, you can see that it did a great job handling the edges right here as well. So there are many ways in which we can easily fix this selection out, guys. First, if you go here on the layers panel, you can see that the mask thumbnail is currently selected. So I'm just going to switch to my brush tool and press the D key to establish my default foreground and background color. Now I'm going to right click and increase the size of my brush and hit the enter key. Since I need to reveal details, I'll make sure the foreground color is set to white. Then as I paint on it, I'll be able to reveal all those details just like so. And as you can see, guys, I took some time off the screen to adjust these videos with few changes, but initially I started with the color range command and it gave me very good result. So let us go here on the layers panel and click on this button and add maybe a solid background to it. And I'll just choose like this color and let us bring it down. And you can see that we did a very great job. Although there might be some missing details, but you can spend some time refining it. This video is about the color range command. So I'll now switch to the image with the fighter jet right here, because my intention is to show you exactly how powerful the color range command is, especially if you have an image that has a fairly uniform background. So you can see that the background of this image transitioned from this color to this color. So my intention is to select the fighter jet and place it on the clouds image right here. So I'm going to make sure I go to select and then choose color range. And I think by now you should be able to navigate your way around. So I'm going to start by making sure I click on this check mark to make sure it is not selected. And since the background is fairly uniform, I'm going to start by sampling the background by clicking on it once and then holding the shift key and clicking and dragging around to this other portion just like so. And as you can see on the preview window, the color range command did a very good job this time, because this is actually the type of image the command was meant for. Since I'm satisfied with this, I'm going to hit OK. And since we started by selecting the background, I will now go to select and then choose inverse. Now I'm going to go here on the layers panel and click on this button to add a layer mask to it. To bring the clouds, I'm going to switch to this document, make sure I have my marquee tool selected, anyone will do. Then I'll just right click and choose duplicate layer. And I'll just give the name as clouds. And then under the destination, I'll choose the document with the fighter jet and say OK. Now if I return here, because the layer we duplicated is on top, we can't see the fighter jet, so I'm just going to click on it and move it down. And as you can see, guys, we did an incredible job. So you can continue modifying the image and adding all sorts of effects, but I think you get my point with the color range command. It is a very powerful command that if you master how to use it, you can pretty much cut anything inside Photoshop so far as the background is fairly uniform. I know my guys out there can be able to do this with the pen tool, but just look how nice the edges look just with the color range command. So I think this is actually replacing the pen tool in this particular image, but the pen tool still has a very special place in Photoshop, so that is why the tool is going to be around for a very long time. It was a pleasure explaining all this to you, and this is just the beginning of what you can expect from a channel like this. So kindly subscribe and make sure you stay up to date. I will see you in the next one tomorrow. Bye bye.